You know, usually I have to pester Sean Spicer, the RNC chief strategist and communications director, to come on the program. This week, he reached out for me. I think he's here to do a victory dance. Hello, Sean.
Hey, Michael, I've never pestered you.
A little premature, though, to be doing a victory dance, isn't it? I know you're feeling good.
No, I think, look, I'm not doing a victory dance by any means. I think we've had a good week. We've talked for a long time here at the RNC about the fact that we went through a rather contentious primary and that it would take a little while for the party to come together, unify, and then pivot. I think we've done that quicker than anybody anticipated. And you're right in your intro that it's the Democratic Party that, frankly, is looking highly undemocratic. You're seeing chairs being thrown in the Nevada caucuses. You're seeing the two sides talking about the concessions that they might have to offer to get Bernie Sanders to at least even talk about being on the team again. You're seeing someone like Governor Ed Rendell talk about the fact that the majority of women in America are ugly. I mean, I think this is like the Democratic Party has probably had one of the worst weeks that it's ever had.
Wait a minute. First, he said something boneheaded for which he apologized, but he was actually explaining a comment by your standard bearer who said that you can't be a 10 if you're flat-chested. I mean, do you really want to have to hang your hat on that?
Here's the funny thing. Look, I think the funny thing is, Michael, whenever anyone, and I literally mean anyone, who has got an R next to their name, says anything, the RNC gets a phone call asking us to explain or repudiate little Johnny at St. Thomas's Middle School because he said something. When Ed Rendell, the chairman of the Democratic Convention, the former governor, former DNC chair, and top surrogate, says the majority of women in America are ugly, and Hillary Clinton refuses to comment on it, the Democratic chair, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, refuses to comment on it, and yet time and time again, Donald Trump says, you know, every tweet that he sends out, every Republican has to comment on it. I think there's clearly a double standard. And so I do think that it's unbelievable that, you know, he turns around and says, yeah, that was a boneheaded thing, and the rest of the media turns around and says, okay, let's move on.
No, listen, I can tell you, look, I can tell you, I talked about it extensively on Sirius XM on my radio program, and the reason it so stands out is that was a Dave Weigel piece in the Washington Post with a dateline of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is the town in which I was born and raised. But, Sean, you have to acknowledge that what began that conversation is that Donald Trump said no woman who's flat-chested can be a 10. I mean, come on. Do you really want to have this conversation? You're celebrating this week.
No, but again, but you know what? But here's the point, is that you will talk, not just you, and I don't mean to pick, because you have been very balanced and fair throughout your coverage throughout the cycle. But I'm saying that the rest of the media, every comment that Donald Trump or frankly any Republican makes that's outside, you know, what is considered the bounds of mainstream discussion, we get a phone call asking us to denounce and explain that. Ed Rendell makes a boneheaded comment, and no one even picked up the phone to call the DNC to ask them to repudiate. There is an amazing double standard when it comes to comments that are made on the left. No one at MSNBC, no one at the Post, they don't actually call the DNC and ask for comment because they excuse it and say, oh, well, he didn't mean it. But when Republicans do it, it's quite a different story. And so you're seeing a week of the DNC getting trashed. You're seeing Van Jones on CNN talking about that he'd rather have Reince Priebus as his chairman. This has been a very, very bad week for the DNC, for the Democratic process, for the entire candidate field. Right. Between Hillary and Bernie, they've had a very, very bad week.
I have my eye on something that I want to point out to Sean Spicer, and that is the emergence of this Libertarian ticket, which will apparently consist of two Republicans or former Republicans, Gary Johnson, governor of New Mexico, and Bill Weld from Massachusetts. Are you concerned? There's a poll, a Fox poll, that shows that Johnson, there he is, in double digits at 10%. Are you worried that two Republicans banding together now as libertarians could eat into Donald Trump's vote?
No. And I'll tell you why. Because this story has popped up over and over again, and it's never, if you look back through the course of history, it's never panned out. I think that if I'm much more concerned right now, or if I'm a Democrat, I'm much more concerned when you look at the poll numbers, the number of people that are Bernie supporters that say they will never vote for Hillary, number one. But number two, 1 in 10 is actually saying that they're going to vote for Trump. I think that the Democrats have a bigger issue than we are, and I appreciate the media's incessant concern about the state of the Republican Party. But the fact of the matter is this week was a foretelling of the concerns that are going to go into Philadelphia. The Democratic Party is fractured, very fractured when it comes to where Hillary Clinton is and the far left extreme socialist communist kind of wing that Bernie Sanders represents. It is going to be very, very hard for them to get back together. And
I will give you this.
Another faux fight on the right.
Yeah, I will give you this. If you said to me at the end of May, going into Memorial Day weekend, one of the parties is still going to have a contest at the top of the presidential ticket and looks like the other is going to be relatively smooth headed into their convention, I'd reverse the two. No doubt about it. Sean Spicer, thank you. Call me anytime.
Thank you, Michael.